Welcome to All Things Microsoft 365. I want to show you a better way to track student performance, especially for independent practice, where we can get our independent practice trackers to look like this instead of like this. When I first became a teacher, this is how most teachers, as well as myself, were tracking information. You put in the week, the day, and then for the question, you would put in yes, no, or maybe didn't answer, no answer. And you would do that for math and for TA, and maybe leave a little note. This is a useful way to get an idea of how scholars are performing. However, after a while, you lose sight of how they're performing over months at a time. So I want to show you a better way to track that information. It's better to track by row instead of by column. And this will actually make the process faster for you as well. I'm also going to get a lot more information here because I can see the correct answer and the scholar answer. I also added in the lesson and the standard to get an idea of how scholars are performing by standard as well. So let's take a look at how to build this. First, I have the student ID. You don't necessarily need that. You can use the name as your unique identifier if you want to. However, I like to have the ID there. And then I have my class name if you have multiple classes. Correct answer tracker, so that's if the scholar got the correct answer or not. Scholar answer, number, correct answer, the lesson, subject, date, and standard. The order of these do not matter. You can put it in whatever order works for you. However, when we put it in, we're going to be looking at the data in the bar graph like we saw at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to pull some information here to make it a little easier. I have my Loyola class and my Texas Tech class. I'm going to pull that information from here, and I'm going to drop it as a value. Now, this part I can copy and paste each time, right? So instead of writing the name out each time, I'm only going to copy and paste it each time. Now, I also want this to be a table to make it easier to input data and to view data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in the student ID. I'm going to do Control T. And now I have a table. Okay, and I'm just going to do a little bit of formatting. I'm going to center everything. And now what I want to know is if scholars got the correct answer. So first, let's look at the lesson. Say it's for TA. We can start with the lesson that we have here. So it's TA Unit 5, Lesson 16. Let's drop that here. The subject is TA. Today's date can be whatever date you want. We'll say 02/21/2023. And whatever standard this question was for. So let's just go with 4.G.1, right? Grammar standard. Now, I want to know a few things here. I want to know what is the correct answer for that number and what is the scholar answer. So let's just say it's multiple choice. It was number 2 in the independent practice. The correct answer was D. And I want to know if a scholar got it correct or not. First, I need to put in the actual answer. So this is the part that's going to be manual, the actual tracking process. Everything else we can just copy down. So what I'm going to do before I put that in is I'm going to take this and I'm just going to copy this down. Be careful with the date. We don't want it to go 1617 or the date to go in order. So I'm just going to click here and I'm going to click copy cells. So it just copies it down instead. So now that aspect was really easy. I don't have to do much. I just input it once and it's copied down. Okay. So now for each of my students, I'll put in the answer that they had. So A, C, D, and I'll fill that in. And then from there, I want to know if they got it correct or not, right? And what happens if a scholar didn't answer? Sometimes I'll put NA. Okay. Now, I can manually put in for each of these if it's no or yes. And that works for me. However, I could also do a formula. So I'm going to do an if statement to say if this matches this, then yes. If not, then no, or NA. I'm going to pull that if statement, drop it here. So what's happening here? I'm saying if this is NA, then NA. If the scholar answer is equal to the correct answer, then yes. If it is not equal, then no. So let's build that together. Instead of an if statement, we're just going to do ifs. And I want to know if this is equal to NA, then NA, right? And then the next logic, if this is equal to this, then yes, or whatever you want. You could write correct or incorrect. And if this is not equal to this, if the scholar answer is not equal to the correct answer, then no, or incorrect, or however you want. And we'll just click enter. And then now that fills for me automatically. So I only need to put in one thing each time, right? So say I put in D here, you see it changes to yes. If I put in A or C, it stays as no. And this makes it a lot faster for me. I can just go down my tracker from the classroom and I can just put in the answers they have. Or if you have a tablet, you can do this while you're going through the classroom. Okay, so now I have all of the scholar answers filled in. And you may be asking yourself, well, how do I get insight on how they're doing for each week? Maybe I have multiple days, multiple dates. So that's why I have this here, so I don't have to input a lot of other data. And I can show you how to look at this. So there's a few things is maybe I want to do a few calculations. The best way to look at this information is to use a pivot table. So we're going to go ahead and create a pivot table. So let's go to Insert, Pivot Table, from Table Range, and we want to use this table called Tracker. To know the name of your table, if you're looking for it, you can go to Table Design when you're clicked into the table, and you can name it here. I have mine named as Tracker. You can name it whatever you want. So now I have a pivot table created, and you see all of those columns that we entered are now here. This is an easy way for me to gather information and gain insight from that information. So say I want to look at how the class did. So let's look at class name, look at the row here. And I want to know, did they get the correct answer? Or who got the most correct answer? So let's take a look. So it looks like we have Loyola and Texas Tech, and we have the count of the answer tracker, right? But it's not telling me which one is yes and which one is no. It's telling me which one's Loyola and which one's Texas Tech. So I want to know what is, how did they do? So now I'm going to drag that into rows. I'm going to take correct answers and put it into row. And now I can see, okay, so for the whole class, it looks like Loyola overall is doing better than Texas Tech. And it looks like Texas Tech has a lot of NAs. So that means scholars are probably struggling. So what if I want to know, by subject? Well, we can also create a filter. And then here I can see, okay, how are they doing in math? How are they doing in TA? Right, so now I can see, okay, Loyola is doing better than Texas Tech in math. Let's see how Texas Tech is doing in TA. Loyola is also doing better than Texas Tech. So it looks like Loyola isn't struggling nearly as much as Texas Tech is. And it doesn't seem to be a problem here. It looks like the problem is really here. The scholars are not getting to the independent practice, right? So this gives you a lot of insight as a teacher. Now, what if I want to visualize that? Now I can take this pivot table, I can go insert, and I can insert a bar graph. And then now I can see, okay, wow, Texas Tech is definitely much higher for NA, and Loyola is definitely higher for yes, but they're equal in no, right? And then what if I wanted to look at math? I can just filter again for math. And then it automatically adjusts, right? So it looks like we're doing a lot better in math than we are for TA. Maybe we need to spend a little more time in TA. So after this, you can kind of dive into whatever bar graphs work for you. So if you go to insert, we have a lot of options here. We can also look at a pie chart to see, how we're doing overall. And I find the pie charts and the bar graphs are the most useful. Now, if you want to make it look pretty, you can go and add a title, axis title and chart titles. So we can just call this IP. And this makes it a lot easier for me to track information.